Hello, fifth graders. Mr. Wayner here. This is the Unit 8 fraction review video that I'm making. Feel free throughout this video to fast forward, to skip, to pause, to go back, rewatch something, as I'm going to talk about 7 or 8 different topics today. Each one will take about 1 or 2 minutes. I'll go through an example problem, and hopefully the words that I'm using, the verbiage I'm using, and the numbers that are written on the screen will help you better understand these concepts. Remember, these steps that I'm taking are the same that are located on your notes that were handed out in class, on the steps to follow, and then an example that follows the steps. So please use that as a guide. That is a wonderful tool that you can use. The first problem that I'm going to do today is multiplying a percent and a whole number together. An example of this might be 32% times 14. And another way you might see this written is 32% of 14. Remember that the words of and multiply are really interchangeable in these problems, meaning that you can switch them in and out. So if you see 32% of 14, it really is the same thing. So looking at this problem, 32% of 14, our first step is to switch the percent, 32%, over into a decimal. 32% is the same thing as 0.32. Our second step is to multiply the decimal and the whole number together. Remember, the word of and multiplying are interchangeable, meaning that you can switch them in and out, times 14. Now, I've seen some of you guys try to do this by hand. You can do that if you want to, but an easier way is just to use your calculator. When I go and type this into my calculator, I multiply these two values together, and I come out with 4 and 48/100ths, 4.48. So this would be the answer for this problem. If you have more questions, check the flashcard that was handed out and relate back to that, and you'll see another example of 18% times 10. The next type of problem I'll explain is multiplying a whole number and a fraction. When multiplying a fraction like 5 times 2/3, I apologize, my pen isn't picking all the way up. That is a 2 there. 5 times 2/3. The most important thing to remember, once again, is not only just the conceptual understanding of knowing that this means 2/3 plus 2/3 5 times, but that we must multiply the whole number, which is 5, times our numerator, which is 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Now our denominator just stays the same. It stays as 3. Now our last step is to simplify. You can take 3 out of 10 3 times. When I count up by 3s, 3, 6, 9, which is 3 times, I'm left with 1. I'm at 9, it takes 1 more to get to 10, so I'm left with 1/3. If I added up the fractions together, 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3, which essentially is the same thing as 5 times 2/3, I end up with 10/3 as well, which if we simplified, we'd get the same answer of 3 and 1/3. The next type of problem I will be doing is multiplying fractions. The important thing to remember with this is always multiply the numerators together and always multiply the denominators. If I had a problem like 3/5 and I multiplied it with 1/4, the key thing to remember is the numerator needs to be multiplied with the numerator. 3 times 1 is 3, and 5 times 4, multiplying the denominators, would be 20. And then simplify. In this case, 3/20 is as simple as you can go, so 3/20 is the answer. Another problem, I'll do one more here, is 1/7 times 2 halves. When I multiply My numerators together, 1 times 2 is 2, and 7 times 2 is 14. In this example, I can reduce because I have two even numbers, and I know that when I have two even numbers, one is my numerator, one is my denominator, I can always reduce those fractions by dividing by 2. If I divide both of them by 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 14 divided by 2 is 7, for an answer of 1/7. If you are going to watch one of these problems, this next problem is one that I would want you to watch. This is about borrowing when subtracting fractions. If I have a problem like 7 1/3, and I subtract 2 4/6, for many of you, the red lights start going off. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what this process is. I know what an answer might be about, but I don't know for sure. The first step is following the rules. Number 1, we must find common denominators. When I'm looking at my thirds and my sixths, I know that I can multiply my thirds by 2 to get to 6. So I multiply my numerator and my denominator both by 2 to get to 6. 7 2/6 minus 2 4/6. Now in this case, if I had 2/6 in my hand, if I had the fraction blocks that I have in the room in my hand here, if I just had 2/6, could I give you 4/6? No, I couldn't. However, I could break up one whole and get more 6 and then give you 4/6. In order to do this, I'll need to borrow from my whole amount. I'm going to borrow one from my 6 wholes, so now 7 wholes, and now I just have 6 wholes left. Taking one away, that one just doesn't disappear. It needs to be added back. But because I took it away from the whole numbers, it has to be added back into the fraction. Now we know that one whole equals 6/6. So when I add these two values together, the 2/6 and the 6/6, I now have 8/6 all together. I can rewrite this as 6 8/6 minus 2 4/6. Now I would solve this as if it was any other problem. First off, I would start with the fractions and subtract them. 8/6 minus 4/6 is 4/6. Next up, I would do the wholes. 6 minus 2 is 4. Now there is one more step, and that's if you can simplify. In this case, I can. 4/6 is equivalent to 2/3. So I can reduce this to 2/3, going from 4/6 to 2/3, and my 4 just stays the same for a grand answer of 4 2/3. Next, we'll be dividing fractions. If I have the fraction 2/3 and I divide it by 2/5, there are a couple steps in which I need to follow. Now, I can't divide these fractions in an easy way, but the best thing I can do is multiply them. The key here is to switch this division problem over into a multiplication problem. My first step is to switch the sign from division to multiplication. I'll do that below. Our second step is to switch the numerator and denominator of the second fraction. So these values need to be switched. So now I have 5/2. And always remember, the first fraction just stays the same, 2/3. 2/3 times 5/2. My third step is I multiply as if it was a regular multiplication problem. 2 times 5 equals 10, and 3 times 2 equals 6 for an answer of 10/6. Now this can be reduced into a simpler form. I can take 6 out one time and have 4/6 left over. However, this isn't 4/6, just like the last problem, has an equivalent fraction of 2/3. One whole stays the same for an answer of 1 2/3 is a final answer. When multiplying mixed numbers, it's important to remember that one must turn the mixed numbers into improper fractions before multiplying. If I have 4½ times 1 1/3, I have to first switch this over to improper fractions. 4½ is the same thing as 9/2. Multiplying it by 1 1/3, which is the same thing as 4/3. Notice how I took both of these mixed numbers and change them into improper fractions. Now that I've switched these over to improper fractions, I can multiply them across. I can multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. 9 times 4 is 36. 2 times 3 is also 6. 36, 6 is the same thing as 6 wholes. The answer in this case is 6 wholes. The last thing that I will show you is how to add and subtract mixed numbers that have different denominators. If I have the fraction 4 1/5, and I add on 2 1/3, in this case I cannot multiply 3 by a number to get to 5. So I know that I need to multiply both fractions by the opposite denominators. When I rewrite this, I have 4 3/15 plus 2 5/15. When I add them together, I add the fractions first, which is 8/15. That's in simplest form. And 4 plus 2, which is 6, for a grand total of 6 8/15. This is all that I have to share with you at this time. If you have any other questions, as always, please email me or call me. My phone number is 616-212-7413. I really want to help, or I will be at school early tomorrow morning. I'll be here at about 7 a.m., and I'll also be available during break and during lunch. Make sure that you are working hard at home, studying the notes that were given, studying the review guide, and all the other paperwork that you've completed during class. This is a huge topic to cover, and I'm so proud of you for working so hard and for watching this video today. Thanks, and have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye.